Hey, welcome back, everybody. Thanks for joining us to this issue of Doc and Lefty. You know, we're playing the race card game, I guess, and so I'm going to take mine, put it back in the deck, but I'm going to see your race card and trump it with a bigger, more elaborate race card.
All right.
Just because that's what we do here. We throw racial card bombs at each other for no apparent reason and no apparent moral or political effect.
Yeah,
but
the one thing usually starts it.
The one thing that we can really talk about, the one thing we can really agree on is that this kind of stuff, it just can't happen. There's legitimate criticism of the Cologne Police Department for, I think there was reports that they denied extra security for New Year's Eve. New Year's Eve, you've been to Germany.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
I know a little bit about Germany. I've never been personally, but I know a little bit about Germany. I know about the Carnival, some version of Carnival,
yes.
Oktoberfest, New Year's Eve, huge parties all over the country. Lots of people in the dark doing lots of different kinds of things, regardless of who's to blame for this. And obviously the victims can't be blamed, but there needs to be more security. And Cologne denied offers of reinforcements or extra security from neighboring towns. That's a legitimate criticism. This kind of thing can't happen. And I think where the conversation is being co-opted is the perpetrators are obviously part of the narrative, but making this about the different perpetrators, the different culture, the immigration policy, to me, muddies the message that we have to stand against rape wherever it comes from. Am I wrong about that? Where am I missing the dialogue, I guess?
You and I agree. Here's the part that now, let's look at this. The right-wingers, or however you want to look at them, are saying it's because the Muslims are doing this.
Yes.
The women are saying, geez, it's because the Muslims do this. It's only the liberals, males, that are going, it's all right. Now,
hold on a second. That's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous thing. That's a ridiculous thing to say.
Well, but that's
because women are not saying Muslims are doing it. Women are saying men are doing this.
Men are doing this. Muslim men. Now, one of the things
rape women. It doesn't matter where they come from.
Blake is leaving out. The reason these other communities were offering help was in part because Cologne has such a large Muslim refugee population. In part, and Blake hits it right on the head. This is Carnival. And what the issue is that the number of rapes reported were so much more than usual in other years that the number of rapes reported during these celebrations are increasing exponentially. And what makes it worse, which makes it unconscionable, which I agree with Blake, the police are not doing anything. The mayor comes out and through her very words blames the victim. I mean, this is ludicrous. And the bottom line is let's talk about immigration on a wider scale. I mean, it's the same problem that we're having here. We're blaming an influx of, would you say in the last decade we've had millions of refugees come in? Would you say that? I mean, because there's supposed to be something like 20 million, quote, undocumented citizens, or however the left wants to view them. So part of the problem that we have here in America is the same problem they're having over there. Whenever you allow people to immigrate to your country, there's always going to be a certain percentage that are going to be criminal elements. The problem is, in this particular case, one, the police didn't do enough. Two, the mayor blamed the victims, and three, they're doing things that are, contrary to common sense. If you have a group of people, and in this case, it appears to be Muslim men, raping women on a holiday, you don't go, hey, listen, the holiday isn't for raping women. You put them in jail and you deport them. That's what you do. And maybe Blake has a different idea. Well, don't you think that you ought to put people that rape in jail? You and I agree on that.
Yeah, this idea that. So what? So what's the principle that you're standing on here? What is the argument that you're trying to make? This is a bad thing that happened, obviously.
Obviously.
The reporting has come out saying that these are people that were of North African, possibly Arabic descent. That means that there's a large chance, a large majority of them, perhaps most of them, were Muslims. We don't know if they're practicing. We also don't know how many were German nationals of North African descent who were born in Germany, who were citizens. We don't know any of that yet. So making a blanket statement that it's Muslim men raping women is inflammatory. So what principle are you making an argument here other than the fact that we can't have men raping women, which I wholeheartily agree with? Well, what's the principle that you're arguing?
Well, how about this? The principle I'm arguing is, yeah, let's say they're all of German, they were born in Germany, but yet they're part of this culture where it's okay to rape women. You have to put them in jail. There seems to be a reluctance on the part of a lot of European countries to say, hold on, this is our culture and you have to assimilate. We have a tendency to at least not we, but people in Europe, the governments of Europe have a tendency to say, well, okay, we have to be welcoming to these people. I'm all for that. America's built on that. But let's say that 50%, whatever that number is, are immigrants that have been welcomed to Germany from the Middle East to escape the war are doing this.
50%. Good Lord. That would be a humanitarian disaster.
As a number, whatever that number is of these people that came from the Middle East, just fleeing the war, those people need to be deported. That's what I'm saying. If you're a natural born citizen of Germany and you're a German citizen, then you need to be in jail, regardless of your color. But if you are an immigrant doing this, you need to go back.
So how can you both say we demand that you assimilate, but then we treat you differently? Because if it was a white German guy that did this, he would just be arrested, put in jail, he'd be given a prison sentence and be released eventually.
Well, really, it boils down to because remember, citizenship.
It
boils down to citizenship. If you're a German citizen, you have certain rights that are different than if you're an immigrant. You have basic humanitarian rights. Everybody has that. But you don't have the right to stay in a country where you're not going to assimilate, number one. And number two, you don't have the right to stay in a country if you're going to violate one of the most sacred laws.
You demand to assimilate, but treat them differently. That doesn't make any sense. But anyway, let's bring it back to what I'm asking you. The central question I'm asking you, what's the principle that are you saying that because this could happen, because something could happen, that we should prevent immigration, that we should punish the mass of people? Let's make it a little bit more of a realistic idea, because this is truly what it is. You had some kind of I think one of the articles that I said was 500 people, and maybe I have to come back after the break. We had 500 reports of this, of about 1,000 men. We don't have any number of who are refugees or immigrants at all,
because they won't release it,
because they haven't finished the investigation yet. So but one of the reports that I said is that maybe 18 of these guys had Syrian passports. Okay, whatever percentage of 18, that's 1.8% of the 1,000, sure, which is 0.0405% of the million that have already come into Germany. Right? So are you saying that of those because that criminal element is 0.05% or less than that nobody should come in? That refugees should not be welcomed at all? No. Is that what you're arguing?
No, I'm not arguing that at all. What I'm arguing is if you've been convicted of a crime, you don't get to stay in the country.
And that's what they're proposing, though. That's what they're proposing.
But why isn't that law already on the books? That's what I'm saying.
Who knows if it's not? In fact, It says that it is, but they're making it easier to do because of due process.
We're going to do two things after the break. One, we're going to finish up this argument. And then two, we're going to go on to, rats. What's our second thing we're going to talk about today? I forget, but we're going to finish this argument and we'll figure out what we're doing after that. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. And we're trying to be professional here.